strategic plan?
Mike Karnowski participated in it. There was a gentleman I understand that Dennis Weber brought to the table, an outside consultant to help them with them. And this has been Dennis Weber's baby for the last 2.5, 3 years.
So
yeah, that's what they do when they get these plans. They put it together forever and ever, and then they hire somebody for a couple $100,000, I imagine. And
at least.
Yeah, because when the city of Kelso did it, I remember they could have hired, I think, 1 to 2 police officers for the price that they paid for that city plan.
Now think about this, and I pose this question to people who are in business and have been through the process of strategic planning and even have hired outside consultants to help them through this process. And when we talk about 3 years, let's say somebody says, no, Kevin, you're completely wrong. We only worked on it for the last year and a half. Okay, my question to business people out there in the audience is, how many of you would have continued to pay a consultant who is working on this for 90 days, let alone the time frame we're talking about? And I actually was just in a business owner's place of business today, and I asked them, how long would you have employed me as a consultant without very clear goals and objectives and KPIs being established as part of my work? How long would you have waited before you said, Kevin, you're clearly the wrong guy for the job? And they said, I would have had real reasons to be concerned after the first 30 days. And if we got into 60 days and you still didn't have any of this stuff figured out, he said, the last thing I would want to see from you is a document that tells me what I already know. And that's what the executive summary they wrote for Cowlitz County is. It's just, hey, like I said, it's a tourism document. And anybody who would read that, who's been here for any amount of time, go, there isn't anything new there. There's no accountability there. There's no goals there. There's no objectives there. Nothing. It completely lacks anything of background that a business person would have demanded right away in the process.
So basically, you're running on being a businessman that understands the business.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. I had some other questions for you, but they slipped my mind now. But I'll think of them.
If we could for just a moment, I would love to talk about the subject of job creation.
Okay.
Yes. And I really
That's
appreciate you guys
mind.
giving me the opportunity to come here and visit with you guys this evening because, as you know, I was a guest on another show here in town a week ago last Thursday. And keep in mind, you guys, that was 6 days into me launching a campaign. 6 days.
Yeah.
Okay. And all the issues that the host wanted to know, very specific things. What is your position on the landfill? What's your position with whether the sheriff's department should be farming out sheriffs? What's your position on the Millennium Coal deal? You know what? When I voiced job creation and talked about our job creation strategy, I was interrupted over and over and over again. He clearly didn't want to talk about it. And when I asked to visit about the strategic plan, because this thing is 100% convinced, and nobody in business would argue with me, a completely worthless document. I wanted to talk about that and share why it was didn't have any real peep in it. Didn't want to talk about that either. Nobody in this community would argue that Cowlitz County doesn't have a huge problem when it comes to job creation. Our economy has been flat, dead, like a coffin nail for the last 30, 35 years. We got drug and alcohol problems here and homeless problems here and high unemployment and crime problems. Didn't want to talk about any of that. And you know what? Those are the real issues that actually do count, that do matter. Because you know what? You know what's interesting is if a position on the landfill was the only thing that was really important and you completely neglect the things that I just talked about, well, there's going to come a time when you can shove the whole county into the landfill. Because that's where things are headed.
Actually, they can't. I've been paying attention to this landfill thing, and they said it for 100 years is what it'll fill up. But with the way they're, excuse my language, whoring it out right now, they're going to fill that thing up a lot faster than 100 years. So that's that is a concern for local people. And then I wanted you, talking during the segment, where we were playing, an interview from somebody else. Mm-hmm. You were talking about the pay that the Cowlitz County Commissioner gets, and if I want to remember correctly, it was $6,600. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So then you also mentioned how many hours. Yeah, that's $6,600 a month. Then you also mentioned how many hours are required of the job be spent in there per week, if I understand you correctly. And that number was what?
12 to 15 hours a week is what the actual meetings that are scheduled on Mondays, the Tuesday morning meetings that they have, which is the public meeting and the commissioners meeting just following that, and then meetings they have on Thursday mornings. That whole time requirement is
Did you say Monday morning meeting?
Meetings during the day on Monday with the various department heads. and then a Tuesday morning meetings and Thursday morning meetings.
Now, did you know that they have a commissioners update meeting every Monday morning, 9 a.m. in the back office that is open to all citizens? That is where a lot of things are decided. By the time they hit that, meeting room to vote on something, they've already decided the day before whether they're going to do something or not.
Mm-hmm.
So have you thought about maybe going to those meetings too? Because there's a lot of stuff in those meetings. I've gone to a couple of them, and I've seen a lot of. I went to this meeting. It's a public meeting. It was a quorum, and they actually told me that I could record this meeting, which was not accurate, and they could have gotten a lot of trouble.
Well, since the currently elected politicians say they're all about what's best for the county, I'm sure they'd be delighted to have you come.
Yeah, but going back to the pay and the requirement, the hours. How many hours do you think these guys are averaging a week? Then, if they only have to be there, that few hours, are they there doing other things the rest of the week, earning their money, or are they out playing golf? I mean,
it's to the commissioner's discretion what they spend the balance of their time in, and that actual time requirement in some weeks it can be as little as 8 to 10 hours is what the actual meetings that are set up. But on average, it's roughly in that 12 to 15 hour range. Now, so that I have friends who are commissioners in other states and in other counties. This is the idea of what this job entails is not something that's foreign to me. Mm-hmm. I'm also aware of the fact that the sitting commissioner, when we showed this or shared the details earlier with a lobby effort that he made down in Olympia on January 13th it was, and that was on HB 1802. When he went down there to go lobby, we just showed one little clip.
Right.
But the interesting thing is I've had a lot of conversation with people that talk about what his schedule has been outside of these 12 to 15 hours that we're talking about. And a good chunk of that is actually spent going back and forth and lobbying on issues down in Olympia, as opposed to staying home and focusing on the issues that we have right here in this county.
You're referring to Dennis Weber, right?
I'm referring to Dennis Weber, absolutely.
Yeah, you want to hear? You want me to play this video that you posted?
Yeah, please do. If you have it queued up there, please do.
I do.
Which video is this?
This is the wonderful video of Dennis Weber going up to Olympia and lobbying.
Did we play that earlier?
We did play that earlier, but that whole entire episode was just not proper because the microphone level.
So this is the video that will make you just not want to vote for Dennis Weber.
That's what I would assume.
I mean, it's bad.
Hello, I'm Kevin Hunter, presenting testimony by Commissioner Dennis Weber, lobbying on behalf of HB 1802, January 13, 2016, Olympia, Washington. Current Washington state law requires that building permit fees cannot be any greater than the direct cost associated with issuing a permit, preventing the county from gouging its citizens with excessive fees. HB 1802 is legislation that would change this, permitting counties to raise revenue on the backbone of anyone building a home or developing something new in the county. Citizens in Cowlitz County have already expressed outrage with high permit fees, but Weber's idea was to drive them even higher. You will hear Weber justify his request based on the fact that Cowlitz County has essentially experienced zero growth in 35 years. You will also hear Weber state to the House committee that he genuinely believes that this tactic of placing a hidden tax on building permits would bring Cowlitz County back to prosperity.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Cowlitz County Commissioner Dennis Weber, and I urge your support for House Bill 1802 because it gives the local governments more flexibility in deciding how state-mandated long-range planning activities are funded. While we strongly support that Washington State should provide funding to local governments to accomplish the programs that the state mandates, we also feel equally as strong that local governments should be able to augment any shared revenues with the flexibility that House Bill 1802 provides. Long-range planning activities that reflect local values are critical in Cowlitz County's strategic plan to attract economic development and residential growth. And we've learned firsthand that one of the most important steps we can take to attract development to our area is to have codes and regulatory environments that are consistent, predictable, and up to date. With an annual population growth of less than 0.7% over the last 35 years, with unemployment that consistently lags behind the state's average, with family median income of 20% below the state's average, and with 1 out of 3 residents eligible and enrolled in Medicaid, it's obvious we haven't had much economic growth in Cowlitz County. Consequently, our local priorities have been in law enforcement, in combating homelessness, in addressing community mental health and substance abuse challenges. And as a result, our codes, our planning guidelines are out of date, they're inconsistent with recent state laws, and they represent clogs in the pipeline of permitting. For example, we cannot permit RV parks because our codes are inconsistent and out of date. And yet, we are anticipating a significant industrial development breaking ground later this year that will have hundreds of workers needing temporary housing. Their wages are going to go outside of Cowlitz County, and that's a frustration to us because we're so far behind in updating these code procedures. Unfortunately, our general fund is already strapped. House Bill 1802 will provide us some flexibility to tap other sources to help us get this important task done. Cowlitz County is a non-GMA county because of the slow or virtually no growth that we've experienced, but we still have to do long-range planning under the RCWs to provide and protect the environment, to protect public health, safety, and welfare. We've got multiple state-mandated programs and planning efforts that are swamping our building and planning department, including the Shoreline Master Program, critical area ordinances. We are developing the voluntary stewardship program, but our comp plan is 40 years old. We need some help. With House Bill 1802, you can help us battle our way back to prosperity. Thank you.
So when he talks about how...
Incredibly, Dennis Weber believes that Cowlitz County should have the flexibility of jacking up building permit fees to augment county revenues, and describes this strategy as a way for Cowlitz County to battle back to prosperity. It's difficult to find greater ignorance of how real prosperity is created in any community than what was heard on this day, January 13, 2016, courtesy of Cowlitz County Commissioner, Mr. Dennis Weber. Thankfully, wisdom prevailed in the House, and Dennis Weber's lobby attempt for HB 1802 was resoundingly defeated by both parties. Dennis Weber's testimony is very telling about the character of a commissioner running on a conservative platform known as the Republican Party. This is exactly the kind of behavior that gives rise to the commonly known term, Rhino, Republican in name only. Do you agree with Dennis Weber that Cowlitz County would have seen a return to prosperity if HB 1802 had passed? Please comment below and share this message with your friends. Video obtained and compiled by Kevin Hunter. For more information, visit citizencommissioner.com. Donate or volunteer to help us bring an end to the 35-year growth drought in Cowlitz County. The future of the county rests on you.
Okay, and so I don't know what to think of that, except for it makes me want to, vomit in my mouth when I hear our county commissioners are taking time to go up to Olympia and ask them to be able to charge us money to do something to our property more than what the law allows them.
Right. And Dennis Weber, just to touch on this real quick, and then I want to go back to the hour thing that we were talking about before the video. But Dennis Weber went up there. He's claiming that he was going up there to argue to give more power back to the local government, which, if you watch the video and you listen to his testimony, that is not what he was up there to do. He was up there saying that they needed to generate more revenue and they needed the flexibility to be able to raise the... They didn't say it, but, why else would they want control over the building permit fees unless they were going to raise it?
Revenue. He says we can use this to augment revenue, and this will bring the county back to prosperity.
So Dennis Weber, he I don't know if he just doesn't take this job seriously or if he thinks, whatever. But getting back to the hour thing that we were talking about before, that amount of hours sounds like really low. You explained to me why it's kind of nice to have that flexibility, but you had something else that you wanted to talk about on the hours that they have to spend there.
Thanks for that. And let me visit about something that's kind of interesting. We had touched on this beforehand, that there's actually feedback that, Chris, you alluded to, comes to you directly out of the department itself. And I likewise have had individuals who have reached out to me since I have run and said, hey, there's some things I'd love to share with you. Now, one thing in particular that really cracks me up, because a week ago Friday, when the Daily News contacted me and asked me about my run, and then I shared with them the things that I plan to do and plan to work on. One of the reporters' questions was, how do you make time in the busy